Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's actually your secret friendship podcast. My name is Travis, and I'm joined today by the entire My Mythical Meta crew. Everyone reunited, and it feels so good. Everyone is here. My brother Benjamin.
Hello.
Derek.
Hey.
And Randy triumphantly returns. Randy!
Thank you. Randy, man.
Randy is back. Randy returns for the beginning of a new series that was mostly Randy's idea. You know, we sit around often and we brainstorm ideas, episodes, series we can do for the pod. And this one is Randy's. Today is the pilot of a new series called Magic Players Try Worse Games.
That's not what I titled it.
Magic Players Try Other Card Games is what we're doing. The idea behind this new series is that we are going to acquire starter decks or precons for lots of various trading card games. We're going to spend a little time to learn the rules, try out those games, and then we will record an episode where we talk about our thoughts from the perspective of longtime Magic players. That's what we are. And so we find things that we like and dislike. We compare the learning. We compare the learning of that game to the mechanics of Magic, and we see how easy or difficult it was to learn. And ultimately, we want to make a judgment on whether Magic players should also check out this new game. Was this different game good enough for longtime Magic players like us to dip our toes in? And Derek's giving you a little precursor into what he thinks about today's game, but I'll get to that in just a second. This week's Patreon shout out is to Becky. Woo!
Yeah.
Becky, thank you so much for your patronage. We couldn't do it without you. Listeners, patrons get early and ad-free releases of our content. Our stuff comes out on the Patreon, usually Friday afternoons, while it comes out on YouTube and everywhere else on Mondays. So our patrons get the entire previous weekend to enjoy our content. If you are interested in becoming a patron, go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. Patrons also get 20% off with our primary sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your home for metal gaming dice and other premier gaming accessories. Please visit eldoradogaming.com, and everyone, whether you are a patron or not, can use the promo code META for 10% off at Eldorado Gaming. Please check it out. Lastly, to contact us directly, you can, of course, leave comments on all of our social media, YouTube, Instagram, and our TikTok, or you can send emails directly to mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. For the pilot episode of this new series, Magic Players Try Other Card Games, we experimented with Lorcana.
Lorcana.
What is that?
Big reaction.
What were y'all's first impressions of Lorcana?
It was fun.
Yeah, it was all right.
I had fun playing it,
Yeah.
and I look forward to teaching Kristen and Marin how to play,
Yeah.
because I think it's much more up their alley than Magic will ever be.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
Yeah.
And
I
you
think it's a good intro to trading card game. It's a pretty simplified set of rules,
Huh?
so it's not a whole lot to remember. Like, you know, Magic, you got what are the 30 plus years now of rules, keywords. You know, this is like, hey, here's 2 years
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
at most.
It was a lot of fun to play Lorcana. Make sure, listeners, to leave a comment with which other games you think we should try. And before you say Yu-Gi-Oh!, because we know that it's a never-ending knockdown, drag-out fight between Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! That Magic is winning. But before you
I don't
say
know if it's a
Yu-Gi-Oh!
knockdown drag out fight. I think the dust is settled.
But you
Dead
think the
cat
dust is
bounce has
settled?
already
You think it's
happened?
over? Before you tell us to try out Yu-Gi-Oh!, check out the videos in the corner. We have tried out Yu-Gi-Oh! We've tried out Yu-Gi-Oh! And we have 2 videos that discuss our thoughts on Yu-Gi-Oh! Where we invited our longtime patron, David, to school us on Yu-Gi-Oh! And that was a really fun set of episodes. Please check them out in the corner here. So Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not up on the list, and we don't intend to revisit it, I don't think. I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel pretty regularly. I have a couple decks that I really like. I've been playing Kashtira and Gate Guardian for any listeners out there who want to know what I've been playing. I also have an Earth Machine deck that can doodle around until I run out of time without ever doing anything.
Just like your Magic decks, baby.
Anyway, listeners, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not on our list, but please recommend the other stuff. We are excited to play Union Arena and Universus. Those are two games that are on our list, but we are looking for more. Okay, let's get into our episode where we talk about Lorcana. Just to let everybody know, Benjamin, what are some things we did at the beginning? How did we begin this experiment?
Well, we started with everyone got online and none of us having ever played it before. So we were just like, what are the starter decks? We tried to figure out which starter deck we were going to use, knowing nothing about the game. We just picked characters we liked. And I think Travis went and picked up what's it called? The Gateway product?
Right. Kristen and I were at a Target and we saw a product called Gateway that was on clearance for like less than $10. And it had 2 starter decks in it.
That's
along
cool.
with a bunch of like how to play like rules content and a 2-player board, a 2-player game board.
Yeah. I didn't realize that whole big thing was less than $10. That was awesome.
It was on clearance for less than $10. And when they rang it up, it came up for 20 and I had to tell and so I got it for cheap.
Cool. Well, so we started walking through the Gateway. I think Travis and I both used those starter decks where it told you, okay, now you draw a card. Play this card from your hand. And it kind of walked you through a game. And after a while we said, this all feels really familiar. Let's just read the rules and play.
Yeah.
And so
we kind of just realized it was Magic.
Yeah. So then
with some changes.
Yeah. So what did we do after that? We said, okay, we read the rest of the rules real quick. And then we jumped into a pot of 4. We said, look, there's 4 of us. Can this work with 4 players? And we realized it could. And there was nothing different at all.
All of the online material said the rules for multiplayer are identical. And that was in like the intro product. It said, if you want to play multiplayer, go for it. The rules are all the same.
Yeah. And it worked really well.
Yeah, I agree. Unlike Magic, where it's like, okay, you're going to play Commander. Here's 10 extra rules that you need to remember on top of playing Magic. Lorcana did not require any of that.
Yeah. No, you're right. It was you taught us to play 2-player. We went to 4-player. It was the exact same rule set. And it was real easy. The 4-player version was real easy.
So the way to win is that basically you just like for Magic players, you basically like tap for these things called like lore points or whatever they're called, and when you get 20, you win the game. There's no like combat. That's more like fighting on the battlefield, like the fight mechanic in Magic. We got into a position where Benjamin and I are on one side. Benjamin had his army that he could use to pick off almost everything, but we couldn't stop Travis and Randy because they were both threatening the win on their next turn. Randy was next, and then Travis was after him. So Benjamin passed to me, and I go, and I'm in that position where I pick who wins. I don't remember why I picked Randy over Travis, but I did.
Because Randy's your boy.
Yeah, Randy's
I'm your favorite.
Randy's my sweet little boy, and I love him. So I killed Travis's last thing that was going to let him win the game, so that way Randy won the game instead. And that was how our first 4-player game ended.
Y'all remember about how long it took? How long was that game with 4 players?
I think it was maybe less than an hour.
Yeah, I was going to say right at an hour.
I think it was about an hour. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because
rules and stuff.
Because in
We went
Magic,
slow.
even if we all had 20 life, adding a player adds an additional 20 life you have to chew through. But in Lorcana, you have to get 20 lore no matter how many people there are. So it takes longer because more people can kill your stuff, but otherwise you're still counting up to 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. In Lorcana, you're counting up from 0 to 20 rather than everyone counting down from 20 to 0. So yeah, in Magic, if I have 3 opponents who all have 40 life, I have to deal 120 damage. But in Lorcana, it doesn't matter how many other players there are. I still just have to count up from 0 to 20.
Yeah, that does give Lorcana a different feel. In Magic, it's like you're beating down an opponent, but Lorcana is much more of a race. Just who can get there first, and you have to decide, are you going to take a step forward, or are you going to drag them backwards? But it's never, or you can't really drag them backwards, but you're going to kind of hold them back or you're going to run ahead as opposed
Yeah.
to trying to gun down your opponent.
Which, this is a Disney game. So after we played a multiplayer game with a pot of 4, we did decide to try what it's like 1v1, and we did 2 different 1v1 games. One was me versus Benjamin, and then the other was Derek versus Randy. Benjamin completely whipped my butt. I did not have
It was pretty lopsided.
I did not have an inkling of a chance. It was a very lopsided game. And Randy, how did y'all's game go?
About the same, I think. If I remember correctly.
I could say it. You can't say it.
We didn't say it.
Randy annihilated me. Well, we'll get into it.
Yeah, so let's tell everybody which decks we used, just so any Lorcana players can be like, oh, that's why.
So I had a Sapphire and Steel deck of Anna and Hercules, and it basically just felt like all the cards synergized really, really well with wanting to, like, if your hero would, tap to gain the lore quest, yes.
Well, quest to gain lore, I think.
Yeah, you quest to gain lore.
So it felt like it had like several cards that were like, hey, your heroes will quest for, they gain 1 extra lore. I want to feel like, I feel like they also had some that would like beef up your heroes in terms of like strength for battle. So it felt not as strong as Elf Ball, but just, like things wanted to like, I'm going to make myself stronger. I'm going to make myself do more.
It felt very. I mean, I think Elf Ball is kind of a fair.
Yeah,
not 1-to-1, but very close. Like, yeah,
snowbally.
All about like heroes buffing heroes.
Yeah, they're just. It's a very base level and direct. I'm supporting. It wasn't like as combo-ish as I guess like maybe some other decks could be. These were pretty simple, like +1, +2 kind of base things. And I just picked it because Hercules. I love Hercules. Can't go wrong there.
0 to hero, baby.
Derek, go ahead.
Just like that. I also had a Sapphire Steel deck with Simba and Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. I wrote it was ass. In the ways that Randy's deck really synergized and worked well with each other, I feel like there was no kind of cohesion. Like I have a Sapphire stack and I have a Steel stack. They're all kind of doing neither one of their things very well, and nothing's really like synergizing or collaborating very well. So when Randy and I fought each other, his cards are getting lore, and then his blue cards are getting lore, and then his steel cards are getting bodyguards, and they're like real tough, and they're like bodyguards, and they're protecting his little guys. And I had nothing to get through that stuff. I never got to see my Simba. I didn't get Aurora that game. So, I mean, maybe it would have played differently, but I couldn't ever get off the ground with that deck.
Yeah. I'll go next, and we'll save Benjamin's for last. My deck was the Emerald and Steel Kronk and Scar deck, and I felt the same way that Derek just described his, where it felt like I had 2 stacks, a steel half and an emerald half, and that they weren't really working together. Something that I noticed was that my green half in this deck wanted to be fighting. It wanted to be challenging. It wanted to be challenging my opponent's characters, but none of my green cards were like strong enough to take a hit. So they could challenge something else, but then if my opponent were smart, they would just kill them back and I'd be done. So I felt like I was struggling to develop a lore engine, and like the deck is supposed to be a challenge focused deck. But I really only felt like I was making progress when I inked my emerald cards and just played mono steel.
Do you remember how you got to the position where you were going to win in our 4-player pod? Is it just because we left you alone for so long that you just
I gave up fighting other people?
Yeah.
I gave up fighting other people and just said, okay, I'm going to send all of I'm going to just use only my steel cards to quest for lore, because my steel cards all had big toughness, big butts.
Yeah.
I think, what do I have? I have Hey Hey, Protective Rooster, who's a 4/5 with bodyguard.
Nuts.
I gave up on all my green stuff because it wasn't working in the first half of the game, and said, you know what, this stuff doesn't matter. I'm just going to start inking it, and I would just start questing with my steel cards.
Mhm.
And then I think, yeah, y'all left me alone for a long time. But that was only because I was leaving y'all alone.
Yeah.
Like
And Benjamin had put such a
my
target on
emerald
his back.
cards, I felt it wasn't worth it to be challenging people. because other people's stuff was already too strong for me anyway. That's what it felt like. All right, and Benjamin, tell us about your powerhouse deck, the deck that stomped us all.
Yeah, so it was Amber, Sapphire, the Queen, and Gaston. I just wanted to play villains, and so I picked the precon that had villains in it, and it turned out that it was not a villain deck. It was a 7 Dwarves deck.
Well, that is the worst bait and switch ever.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
it worked, but
yeah. I mean, it was very powerful because roughly a third of the deck is 7 Dwarves characters. You know, Sleepy, Sneezy, Doc, all of them, and they all did something to give you a benefit when you played another dwarf. So they might provide a boost of power, or if they die, all your characters get +2, or they quest with this one, you give its power to something else. Like they were big on fighting.
Gang mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt kind of like a goblin deck. If you're
come for one dwarf, you come for us all.
Yeah, and so it's kind of snowballed where if people aren't picking off your dwarves, then the synergy of them pumping each other and playing off of each other, it allowed you to go after lore and pick off opposing characters at the same time. And then a good chunk of the deck was things that removed counters or removed damage or prevented damage, which also meant that after fighting, you could reset the board and your characters wouldn't just die. I did feel like anytime I drew something that wasn't a dwarf, it felt like a letdown. Yeah, it was like the Queen ink.
The
What am I
face
gonna
card
do
of
with
my
it?
entire deck.
I mean,
I inked Scar. I did the same thing.
yeah.
I was like, you're not helping.
So yeah, I didn't feel like there was anything for why was Gaston on the face of this deck? There was Gaston and LeFou, and then there was no Beauty and the Beast in this deck at all. At least with the
What was
7
with these villains, except for
Well,
7 Dwarves?
Well, no, I mean, no, it had a lot of. There were no other villains. It was just the Queen and Gaston, and I guess there was there was like some Cruella de Vil randomness. I don't know, but like it was basically all 7 dwarves. There was randomly a Judy Hopps in there, a Winnie the Pooh. I don't know, but the big thing is that the 7 dwarves played beautifully, and they were. I did like how they snowballed out of control.
Okay, so we're going to start with the positives. We're going to start with the things that we liked about Lorcana. Like we said before, I did have fun. I certainly had fun learning and looking at these cards. And something I'm looking forward to about this series is that feeling of learning like I had at the beginning of Magic. That voracious, like, my God, what could I do? What are the possibilities? What's the potential of what I could build? And so, yeah, let's start off with the things that we liked about Lorcana. Randy, start us off. What's something you liked?
Okay. The entry price. It is cheap to play this game.
Yeah.
To start out, I don't know how it is in the secondary market.
Yeah.
On TCG Play or anything, but like, I mean, I think I bought mine for $10 on Amazon, but of course, or your local game store first. But yeah, I mean, they're super cheap. I think not a single one of them is over $20 to start.
Yeah, I think the MSRP of these starter decks was like $16.99 or something.
Yeah. So yeah, just the cheap price to get in. I was gonna ask, what's the price of just like a booster deck?
Like a booster pack, you mean?
Yeah. Sorry, a booster pack.
Probably $4.99, maybe.
It looks like you can get like a 3-pack for $12, so about $4.
Yeah.
So $3 to $4 for a booster.
That's what Pokemon used to be. That's what Magic used to be.
Used to be, yeah. Until everything got $5 for a, I don't know what the play pack or something.
I think they're like $6.99.
Oh yeah, something like that. And then God forbid you get the collector edition for $20 a pack. Anyway, but the price was just really nice, but it didn't feel like if we did end up hating the game, it was $12 all in.
Yeah, that was my biggest selling point for this thing.
Derek's like, it's how much?
Hey, Derek, we're going to try this new series. You need to go buy some stuff. I'm not going to go buy some stuff. It's $10. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was nice. I actually found a local game shop to me, walked in, and yeah, 10, $15, something like that for the deck I got. And I was like, cool. I don't feel any kind of buyer's remorse. Sometimes when you buy one of those Magic Precon decks or like a bundle or whatever and you whiff on your packs, you're like, oh God, I just spent a lot of money on bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Imagine
still
buying
feel
3
that way
magic
about
packs.
Yeah.
getting nothing.
that is just something that gets in the way of me buying new Magic Commander decks. Is like, here's the commanders and 10 new cards, and then I'm like, man, that means the other 90 cards are things I already have.
Yeah, probably have several because
It's
they're just
another Steel Hellkite. It's
Yeah.
another, you know.
And 37 basic lands or tap lands.
yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah. But I mean, I was able to I got the Gateway product, like I mentioned, for less than $10. And I did 2 precon decks because I wanted one for Kristen. And I think I spent less than $40 on 2 precon decks and the Gateway product. So it was very, very easy. And like you said, I don't feel any remorse. Even if it's a game we don't like, I can box it all up, put it with my Keyforge decks.
Or, just like, hey, Marin, look, here's a pretty card with a Disney
Marin
character you
loves
love.
the Disney cards. I took the cards from that Gateway product because she spotted it on the table, or she spotted my Magic cards on something, and I said, no, these are your cards. And I just opened up that Gateway product and just literally threw her a bunch of Winnie the Pooh cards.
Just take it, go.
And Minnie Mouse and Minnie, she loves them. She says,
See, what you gotta do is
cards.
You gotta you just have like a stash of them and be like, you know what, you were good today. Here's a card.
Here's a new card. Yeah, I really should. That's a good idea.
It cost me nothing. It was 2 cents on to resell anyway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree.
So Lorcana, great for grabbing your kids.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's geared towards children in the first place. So making it where a child could afford it or a parent could reasonably buy that for a child, I think that's so smart. Like I feel like we're being robbed by Magic every time we turn around. We got more, what are they called now? Exclusive sets or
like premier
sets or whatever. More than we have normal sets now.
Yeah.
It's like, but don't you want to pay all this money to get the X-Men?
You might miss out.
We're only printing X amount now.
We've mentioned that several times in the history of this pod. Like Hasbro and Magic, they know that their core audience is 30-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they know that. And so they said, if our core audience has their own disposable income, we can gear our products towards that audience and try to take all of their disposable income. But Disney Lorcana is like, our market is between 6 to 12. And so they are getting their weekly allowance. Or
That's what to say.
Yeah, they are getting their weekly or monthly allowance, or they are asking their parents after a Walmart trip, like, can I get something? And to have something on the shelf that's $5 or less, I think it's smart.
Yeah. Now that is to say, I imagine what's going to happen is once we get Disney's got the player base kind of in, they start dialing up the heat, the prices go up by $1, something like that here and there, and it eventually becomes Magic prices. But as of this moment of recording, it's okay.
I was talking to somebody at a wedding I went to, just telling them about this experience, and he mentioned that at his local shop, a bunch of Magic players switched over to Lorcana. One, because it was cheaper, but also they're like so much smarter than all the 8-year-olds playing Lorcana. So they're just like pile driving them in like Lorcana tournaments and stuff. Just absolutely stomping in order to get like the Lorcana prize support out of the hands of these 8-year-olds.
Oh my God. Despicable.
Then to have like 2 different tournaments was like 20 and over, or 18 and older, and then 17
the 18
and younger.
and over tournaments, and then the youth tournaments.
Like taking candy from a baby.
The junior Lorcana.
These are babies.
Yeah, I know. But he was like, man, you should see how sweaty the Lorcana players get.
I can imagine.
Hey, listener, if you are an adult, you should play with other adults, unless they're your own children.
I mean, if you're at a thing and the kid wants to play, it's like, okay, like, don't be, like, oh, I actually have a really good combo deck
out as fast as you can. I don't know.
If the kid is like some little phenom and he's got his own little sweaty deck, okay. Yeah,
flicking his Lorcana cards at you.
Annihilate them. I don't care how old they are. If they're flipping through their cards.
All right, Derek, tell me something else that you liked about Lorcana.
Yeah, so the same reason I like Commander is that it's a very expressive thing. Like I pick a character that I like or some art that I like. Same with the Disney, it's got like baked in movies and decades of animation, all that stuff. And so you see these characters and you're like, oh, like for me, I love Simba. I love the Lion King. I want that deck. Randy took the Hercules. I would have loved to have the Hercules too. People who love Frozen, the Anna, the Elsa decks. It lets you kind of pick, and it doesn't even have to be like those pre-constructed, or you're not stuck in one color because they print those characters across different colors or inks or whatever. But yeah, you're automatically like buying into like I guess the lore and the characters or whatever. No one's made like a cinematic universe about the Omnats and stuff like that. But
Yet.
we've got the
Yeah.
Lion Kings, we've got this and that. The Frozens. So
I can't
think,
wait for the Lion King 1 1/2 secret layer.
yeah, the Timon and Pumbaa deck. But yeah, I think fans of Disney will flock to their characters that they like, and it'll very expressive that way.
I love the characters. I love the songs, and I like that they have cards based on songs, that they leaned into it. So if you're playing a character, you can play the song and then you go under the sea, and then everybody
Yeah.
joins
Very
in.
thematic.
Yeah, I imagine
Yeah,
it would
that's
get
it.
old if you're like playing at a tournament and everybody's
Just everyone singing around you.
yeah, and everyone's not
Shut
talking
up,
about Bruno,
nerds.
and you're like,
I'm trying to win my competitive card game.
right?
I just think, God, I hope they don't ever try to do any of the live action movies as cards. Like you have
I'm
like
sure they're coming.
Emma Watson on there, and like the Lion King, live action Lion King movie. It's like, I don't want this.
Well, I don't think they'd
Ugh.
ever like change the artwork. It seems like they've got like an art style that they've stuck with. So I imagine they'll just do characters in that art style and maybe different scenes of those movies, like the Lion King, the Mufasa movie or whatever. There's like
Yeah.
a bad white lion or something. So maybe he's in there.
Yeah, I imagine they would do, so whenever they would have a character, so there's Anna, and then there's Anna, Queen of Arendelle. And then a different Anna might be Anna, Sister Seeker. I just made something up, but I don't know.
Right.
But different versions of a character based on different scenes or different parts of their path, or based on whatever in Lorcana universe thing they're doing. Like Winnie the Pooh is a sorcerer. I don't know. I don't remember when he was a sorcerer, but I like that artwork and I like that
Yeah.
version of Winnie the Pooh. So
Right.
that's something that I like too. And I do think that that's probably something that they could do with those live action people, is be like, here's a new Mufasa, but this is Mufasa young and reckless, or whatever.
I'm just saying, I hope they don't ever put that like just like basically screen caps from the movie, from like a live action movie.
The
Well,
Hamilton set.
I'd
with,
feel like it was so
Yeah.
lazy if they ever
Lin-Manuel
did
Miranda.
I was looking up like live action,
Alexander Hamilton not throwing away his shot.
and then a card throwing away the shot. Yeah, like the
Alexander
rookie
Hamilton,
or
young, scrappy, and hungry.
John Carter of Mars. Just doing like a card but like just a live action screen grab. It's like,
Yeah.
no, we don't need this. I don't need to
That's
see
an underappreciated movie, by the way.
Angelina Jolie's Maleficent.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the Disney characters too. It took no time for us to get immersed and to start quoting movies and stuff.
Yeah,
So I think that's definitely a strength.
Yeah, they have 100 years of movies to pull from. Yeah, so it's like, were you born in the last 100 years? You've seen one of our movies.
Even all the
And then
Mickey
also
stuff, like
reimagining them in whatever multiverse they're in. Like
Yeah,
they're Floodborn, then they're Dreamborn, then they're Storyborn. It's like whatever. It's like, oh, he's a knight now. She's a warrior princess or something.
Yeah, I remember in the entry games, I started talking with a Mickey voice.
that would not get old.
Okay,
Not at
I'm
all.
gonna add 1 ink to my Inkwell. And just
All right, make sure you limit it to 2 seconds, otherwise Disney's gonna come for us.
Y'all know I can only say Kaloika once a day.
That was it.
and that's my
it.
one. That's my
You
one
can do
Mickey
your
voice per
Mickey
day.
voice one time.
It's funny you mentioned Disney hunting people down. I'm going to jump into this next one. The ease of learning for us as Magic players, this game was so easy to learn.
Super easy.
It
Barely
felt
inconvenient.
it honestly felt like a 1-to-1 translation from a bunch of Magic of the Gathering's steps and mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Like untap, upkeep, draw was almost the same. And it happened so much that we just continued using Magic terms while we played. I'm going to tap this instead of saying I'm going to exert this or whatever. or I'm going to fight you instead of I'm going to challenge you. Like, we didn't even bother using all of Lorcana's words because Magic had words for that already. Magic had words for that ability. I had what was it? I think I had Zazu, who has an ability called Evasive, where only evasive people can attack him. We're like, Zazu has Shadow.
Horsemanship.
Yeah, horsemanship or whatever it was. So, and what I think is funny about this is that I bet Disney is furious that they could not buy the tap symbol from Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
They had
And
to
honestly-
create their own new logo with an arrow turning to the right.
Yeah, and their
I'm
tap
honestly not
symbol, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I'm surprised Disney hasn't just bought out Hasbro by now. They've
Yeah.
got the money.
Don't give me any ideas.
Yeah, Wizards of the Coast is the only thing making Hasbro money. So,
And Wizards of the Coast is already trying to, bundle with Marvel and
Yeah.
it's like
I bet they're in talks.
yeah,
for sure.
and they're the people who make all the Disney figurines of all these characters that
Are
we're
they?
talking about. So, I mean, most of the time.
I'd bet so, yeah.
Yeah, that
yeah,
could
Hasbro toys, So then they will just kill off Lorcana and just add all of the Disney characters into Magic.
Just start doing Disney Magic sets.
Yeah, and it just becomes magic for children.
That'd be exhausting.
Magic to children.
No, they what it probably does is they keep Lorcana, but they use it as a gateway to Magic, and then they
Lorcana is their
that way
kids
they have a
game,
reason to
and
keep it simple.
In every Lorcana pack, there's one of those little advertising cards, and it's like, are you enjoying Lorcana? Have you thought about trying something in your steps? Try Magic.
Ready to play with the big boys now?
Another thing that goes along with the ease of learning, the rules are identical between 1v1 and multiplayer. It was very easy to make a multiplayer pot of 4 our first game.
Mm-hmm.
That was not difficult. It did not add any learning curve to what we were already learning. It was very simple. It was awesome.
Yeah, very small strategic difference because you could play Kingmaker like we did, but no rules difference.
Benjamin, do this last one.
Oh, the potential for brewing. Precons have this thing where they're not perfect on purpose so that you have to go out and buy more cards to make them perfect. So the playing with the precons and seeing the potential for more synergy, or let's get rid of this Snow White or the knock water spirit and stick some more dwarves in there. Yeah. And so just as I thought about, I would see somebody have a thing that says, exert this to put a card in your Inkwell, and I'm like, there could be a ramp deck here, and start thinking about ways that you could do that you could streamline these decks. And I'm sure that there's competitive metas with Lorcana. We were talking about the sweaty whatever, and I think just being introduced to a new card game did kind of, I got itchy. Like I need to have a good deck, and the cards are there. They're taunting you. Like, you see what you could do. So I think we all got curious and started looking up different cards and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I think we all had like a booster pack or two that came with the precon, right? And we all opened them, and we all right before our second game switched out a few. We said, "Oh, this goes right in there." Traded a few around, and so we already got to thinking. We were playing with upgraded precons. We were playing
upgraded.
I
think I switched out one card.
Right.
I think I took out one cow.
A cow?
Replaced it with, I think it was Anna Queen of Arendelle or something. Because it was a mythic in my booster.
Anyways, yeah. And I bet we're going to say that for
queen.
I bet we're going to say it for every single card game we try is brewing potential.
Except Keyforge.
Yeah. No brewing potential.
Richard Garfield's biggest mistake. So those were the things that we really liked about Lorcana. There's lots to learn, lots of similarities between Magic, so it was very easy for us to learn. And obviously, a deep emotional investment with Disney characters makes the game fun to play. And I'm excited to teach Kristen and Marin eventually. This is a really fun game. But there were some parts of this game that we did not like that really turned us off. Benjamin, start us off.
I didn't like how it felt like games had a potential to snowball to the point where there was no catch-up mechanic. There's no my deck is built for the late game if your opponent got off to a quick start, because it felt like they would have an engine. Like, let's say they played quick stuff on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3. Well, your turn 4 play can't reset the board. They're building up lore still. Your turn on turn 5, you can attack one of the things they've played up to that point with your one thing you played on turn 4. And it's possible that you could get, it's like mid-range versus aggro. It's possible that you could go over the top and eventually stop them before they get to 20. But if they had synergistic cards, if they had ways to protect their stuff from your challenges, it just felt like there was no coming back from a quick start. That could just be that we were playing precons that maybe weren't balanced with each other. And maybe there are board wipes out there that we didn't experience. We kind of had something sort of like a board wipe in my deck where it was like everything gets, what was it, absorb 2 or whatever, which let me just go crazy and attack with reckless abandon and challenge everybody's stuff and start picking them off. But for the most
I
part,
remember I had a card in my deck that was like deal 1 damage to every creature.
Yeah.
Or to every character, which would
Yeah.
rarely be enough to actually kill something. But a lot of my green cards had like special rules with damaged characters.
But I do think that was about as close as I saw to a board wipe, was the one that was like everything can attack without taking some amount of damage, and then you could like pump everything by attacking first with your dopey, having him die. And when he dies, all your 7 dwarf characters are like, you killed Dopey, and get really powerful, and then you just
Dwarf rage
for Dopey.
Oh my god, that's funny.
That was it. Just the lack of I didn't see much of a catch-up mechanic. There's no life gain or board wipe or things that could stop you from losing once you were on the losing track. Who's next?
I can go next.
Yeah, go ahead.
My thing is that I guess this is a game obviously for children, and I kind of felt embarrassed walking into the store and like, hey, let me buy some Lorcana. Let me buy this little baby time stuff.
You're like, it's for my nephew.
I am so embarrassed because I reflexively did this, didn't mean to do it, but I walked in and I said, hey, I need a Lorcana pack. And then without any kind of protest, it's a birthday present for a child. It's not the game's fault. It is what it is. I just have...
It's society's fault.
Yeah, weird
I
hang
did tell the guy behind the counter, I need whatever Lorcana deck. It's for my brother. But I didn't tell him that my brother is 38.
Yeah, so it's a game for children, and because of, not to say that adults can't play it and have fun and all that stuff, but it just feels like a simpler game than Magic. There's a lot less interaction and complex mechanics, or at least that's what we got out of the starter decks, which would make sense if there's more stuff out there. But I don't know, it wasn't like, well, he did something cool. I was like, he played a semi-large creature and hit my slightly lessly creature, and that was the excitement of the night. He made a lore this turn. That's cool. There wasn't like anything like in a turn where like, whoa, wow, you really went off. You really had
made 50 tokens, made them 50/50s, and then gave them haste and trample.
Yeah, nothing. I'm going home and I'm like telling a story of like the time that Randy and I went dragons to dinosaurs or something like that, and how like thematically cool that felt. It's like that. It was just, for me.
You didn't go to bed that night, and you were like, Kristen, oh my god.
Let me tell you what.
Tapped Anna and generated 4 lore.
She's like, he did what to who now?
Yeah, and you only need 20 to win, so 4's a lot.
Sorry. Exerted Anna.
She went on a quest.
Yeah. I'm not super, like, for me, this is not a game I'm probably going to stick with, just because it feels like Magic Light. It feels a lesser than game.
I feel that. I know what you mean. We talked quite a bit about this the night of, because we were like, all of these decks are only 2 colors. Can I build 3? Can I build 4? Or whatever? And the answer to that is no. You can only build 2 colors. And this is just a deck building restriction from the beginning. It's not based on any type of resource allocation. You know, in Magic, if you're going to play lots of colors, the price for that flexibility is your mana base. But in Lorcana,
no mana.
There is mana, but it's not colored. It's not divided into different types of mana. It's just one big Inkwell. And so we felt like this limitation to 2 colors was arbitrary. Like it was just there from on high to say, don't get too creative now.
Yeah, you can't run 3, 4, 5, 6 color good stuff. You got to have only 2.
Yeah, you have to have 2. And Benjamin mentioned in looking through the different colors and doing some of this brewing afterwards, that just about every color, like their bottom levels are almost all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like they've all got a 2 mana 2/2 that quests for 1. Every color's got that. Well, it feels like even at the bottom level, the colors should have different identities. that they should have different strategies they're pushing for, rather than the different colors strategies only changing at the top of the mana curve. I think that seems really, I don't know, boring.
Yeah. It just felt like there wasn't much, like, if you're playing with basic colors, there's like, I couldn't tell the difference between, amber and steel at the beginning of a game.
Right.
And so, yeah, I agree with you. The lack of that identity also makes the deck building restriction feel like, why?
Like with Magic, our colors have like underlying philosophies and perceptions about life and different problems and things like that. And so you could look at a real life character, and like with the universes beyond, this is kind of what they do. They kind of conceptualize them and put them in their own little magic colors of like, oh yeah, what if this person was in these magic aligned games or whatever. And so we kind of see that. But with this, it's like, here's Pooh Bear. He's yellow. He's a little pirate, the cute little pirate. And now he's like a little knight or something. And so he's steel over here. And he's the same character. The only thing that's changing is like clothes. And so it just seems
like a
arbitrary. Yeah, like a role, like, oh, I guess steel's tough because they wear armor or something, and blue and purple are wizard types.
Magic-y.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like anything.
Like, you could make a Pooh Bear, you could make a Winnie the Pooh of any color and just change his clothes and then give him whatever abilities you want.
Yeah, but he's still little old Winnie the Pooh.
When real Winnie the Pooh would be locked into one of those, one or two of those colors. Anyway, we think their exploration of color identity, of ink color identity, is a little shallow.
Yeah, for right now, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess it is like a newer game, like within like the last year or two.
I wonder if eventually they'll start doing multicolored cards.
That's what I was thinking.
Like here's Hey Hey, and this Hey Hey is Ruby and Steel.
They do
you can
have
play
some.
him in either deck. They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which because your cards can only, because your decks can only be two colors, is basically like, okay, if you want to play this, you're in those two colors.
So it's not hybrid, it's just multicolor. I couldn't play a I couldn't play a Ruby Steel character in a Ruby Amber deck. Okay. It's weird. I feel like Lorcana heard Magic players saying restrictions breed creativity, and then they just said, okay, let's add in a bunch of restrictions without really, I don't know, exploring what those restrictions are trying to make the player figure out or do.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, I only played it one night. Lorcana players, come at us.
Get in the comments.
Yeah, get in the comments. Tell us what we're missing.
If you dare.
So those cards are called dual ink, just so you know, and the rules do say that you have to be in those two colors in your deck to play them.
I hate that Benjamin took us to Flavortown with the 7 Dwarves deck.
Yeah, he fought all three of us off for 2 or 3 turns in a row before we finally could get a ring on him. Only for Travis and Randy to threaten a win.
I mean, Derek and I both had lions in our decks.
Yeah. Where were they? I don't know.
No, I can't. I cannot put paws on the 7 Dwarves.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, I guess I should also say, and that's another thing I hate, is that I'm sure they're out there. They weren't in my pre-con, I don't think. There's not a lot of card draw or just like ways to dig in your deck. It's like, I'm top decking. That's nothing. Pass.
That is what my deck felt like too.
Yep.
Although green did have a few card draw things. Emerald did have a few card draw things.
Of course, green,
Yeah,
best
and
color in Lorcana.
What's up?
And we kind of mentioned it earlier, but just like the weird flavor fails, the queen has the head of a 7 Dwarves deck. It's like, why wasn't Snow White
Yeah.
there instead?
Yeah.
And give her something that synergizes with the dwarves, like if she's on the battlefield. I mean, and maybe there is a Snow White card already that does synergize with the dwarves, but then it's like, then why wasn't she
Then
there?
put it in the pre-con deck.
Mhm.
Yeah, don't call it villain, or if you're gonna do villains, take out the 7 dwarves, and then do a Snow White and 7 dwarves deck, and then if you're doing the villains, okay, there's tons of villains and henchmen and things in Disney.
Yeah, it's not like there's any shortage of bad guys.
Yeah.
So let's see, like yours was, what was it? It was the Queen and
Gaston. From
Gaston,
Beauty and the
Gaston.
Beast.
Yeah, it's like a mob of angry villagers. That could have been, in there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like from those two.
Instead of 7 Dwarves, Angry Villager 1, Angry Villager 2, Angry Villager 3.
You have so many different villains that are iconic across Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Ruffians.
I mean,
Sorry, Marin and I watched Tangled today.
okay.
Ruffians.
Yeah, and Tangled,
Thugs.
aren't there those two guys that are?
Yeah, the something brothers.
Yeah, they're partnered with the main hero guy at the very beginning.
Flynn at the beginning, voiced by Ron Perlman. Not Flynn voiced, but one of the bad guys is voiced by Ron Perlman.
Yeah, like you could have those guys. I don't know. It feels like if you're gonna do a villains, if it's called a villains deck, I don't want to see a single hero sidekick on there unless they're a henchman.
Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of like just a marketing thing. If I see the box on the shelf and it has the Evil Queen and Gaston, my instincts say, hey, that's two bad guys on the cover art of that product.
Yeah.
You don't expect to open that box and have 20 of your 60 cards be dwarves.
Yeah, I kind of felt a little bit that way on mine as well. I think mine had a little bit more in terms of like the Hercules theme, with Thebes and Phil and a lot, some of that. But there were some cards in there that I was like, why couldn't I have had a Hercules version of this card? So I had like some Mulan characters, some of the not background soldiers, but Mulan's buddies,
supporting buddies, yeah,
the supporting characters in Mulan. I can't remember what their names were, but I think like Ming or Ling or something like that. It's like, why are they here? Why can't I have Hermes or just Pain, Panic?
Yeah.
Give me Hades. Give me the mom and dad, his human parents. Give me that one dude in Hercules that says the big olive. that's all I need. That's all I need is just that they don't have to be important characters. But I would have rather had them instead of just a character from another franchise. Like if you're gonna have a theme deck, I want more from that. I would have rather have give me more from Frozen. Know a whole lot of Frozen characters, but it's like give me some of the little trolls.
Yeah, trolls. Yeah. The Duke of Weselton. Voiced by Alan Tudyk.
Champion voice
actor.
Weapon.
Man, you could make an Alan Tudyk deck.
Alan Tudyk deck?
Yeah. So hey.
Trying to find
the Duke of Weaseltown.
Yeah.
That would be funny. I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah. The flavor just has the potential to go both ways because making a 7 Dwarfs deck is cool and fun, or making a Frozen deck is cool and fun. Having your Frozen deck include Hades in it, not cool and fun. Why?
The opposite. Hades is underworld. I mean, it could be like, I don't know, you could say the cold fire, but still not really.
Sure.
I had Aurora in my deck. Why is she there?
Yeah.
And going through and being like flavor versus off flavor.
Yeah.
I randomly had Pete from all the Goofy franchise.
Oh, yeah.
Like a referee Pete. Like, that's weird.
Yeah.
In my Scar deck.
And there's some of that in Magic, like why are your Theros gods in Dominaria, right, or whatever. But I mean, it's explained as being part of the multiverse, or like you don't care as much because you're not as attached as you are to Disney, and you're like, here we go.
Disney characters feel a little more sacred.
Yeah,
to me.
Snow White and Cruella de Vil just should not be working together.
Yeah,
but they were both in my deck. Okay.
Let's jump into this last section, which is the gray area. The things that your opinions might differ from one to the other. Some people may like this, some people may not, etc. So this is our section for Up for Debate. I think we mentioned earlier how similar this was to Magic, and there are lots of games that do this to Magic. They say, the core of Magic is its mana system and its land base. Let's fix it.
Yeah.
They always say, let's fix it, and we're going to switch it so that you can always get your mana every turn no matter what. And Lorcana calls it the Inkwell. That's what your mana pool is. And if your card has a little Inkwell icon on it, I'm going to hold one up to my camera. It's the little swirl around the number here up at the top corner. If it has that little swirl around it, then on your turn, you can just add it to your mana pool. So you can just fill your deck with good cards and not worry about your land base, right? If 95% of my cards have the Inkwell icon, then I'm just good. I'm going to hit my land every single turn.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and there are lots of games that do that, I think. I know that Duel Masters was a Wizards of the Coast very old property that did that, where any card could be mana. But I know that the Dragon Ball Super card game does that, where any card can be mana. However, Lorcana does have a few cards that do not have that Inkwell icon. Here's the number of the cost, but it doesn't have that extra swirl around it.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't have the Inkwell, then it can't be added into your Inkwell mana base. So you can't just fill your deck with really powerful bombs. I can't have an entire deck full of mythic rares. I can't do it. Because if all of those cards don't have the Inkwell icon, then I'll never, quote unquote, hit my land for turn. I'll never hit my ink for turn. My Mythical Meta, what do we think of the Inkwell system? This is the first game I've ever played that used it.
Yeah, same. Again, like you said, it's like this is just another attempt for people to like fix the mana system or whatever. It's fine. I don't mind the land system.
Yeah. But it's all we know.
Yeah, it's all we know.
We're used to being punished by the land system.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of the Stockholm syndrome. So the trade-off is like, oh, put it down there, but then you can't get it back for the rest of the game. And I mean, that's part of the strategy, right? But I don't like it. I want my card back.
Yeah.
Putting a land down, that's fine. That's whatever.
I'm willing to bet there are cards out there that are like, or maybe it has the Inkwell icon, but it says to play this card in your Inkwell, you exchange it with a card from your Inkwell and add that card to your hand.
Yeah.
That would be interesting design.
Yeah, I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah.
But
Pitcher,
yeah,
what do
It
you
will
think?
be out there.
I mean, I like Magic's land system, mana system, because it allows them to print Emrakul because because obviously 15 mana is no one's going to get that in a game unless your deck is designed to do that, right? And it comes with other deck building costs to be able to play Emrakul. Whereas a game where you're guaranteed to hit your mana, like Hearthstone or a game like this one where you're putting them in your Inkwell every turn, you're not losing anything but time. So yeah, it's still different. You're not putting 6 and 7 ink cards in your deck because that does mean you have to wait till you get there and you're not being able to play those early. But it also that you're gonna get there and it's worth it to play a few. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I think part of what I don't like about it is that there are some that you can't ink. You can't put in your Inkwell. I think that's weird. I like the.
You think that's weird? Do you think that's a bad part?
Yeah, like if you're gonna fix the mana system, why are you not fixing the mana system? Why?
Go hard.
Yeah, just say any card can be because now you have to show your opponent before you put it in your Inkwell. I don't know. That part was weird. I wish they'd just gone all the way and just said, you know what, we don't even have to put the symbol there. If you want to, you have to make a choice. You can put it in your Inkwell or you can play it, and any card can do that. And I get that it's a balancing mechanic to try to be like, so they can print really good cards that say, sorry, you just got to play it. You can't put it in your Inkwell. But I know that there are cards that say put the top card of your deck into your Inkwell. Well, what if it's not supposed to be inked? Well, too bad. So I think that's kind of weird. There were, like y'all mentioned, the lack of card draw. I bet there are more cards out there, but I did notice that there were times where I was making the decision. I had like a 6-drop card and a 5-drop card and 5 ink, and I was like, I want to play both of these. Should I wait, or should I go ahead and play the 5 so I put the 5-drop in my Inkwell so I could play a 6-drop, or do I play the 5-drop and hope that I draw a card I can ink next turn?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think
that's
game
fine.
designers are just like, haha, my player had to make a choice.
Yeah.
Without being like, but was it a good choice that made the player feel good? Or was it a choice for the sake of saying game complexity?
Yeah. And of course, in Magic, I wouldn't have had the choice. It'd be I have to play my 5-drop and then hope I top deck a land. So I guess it's better. I don't know. That's why it's
Randy,
up for
what are your
debate.
thoughts? Or you can switch to another topic if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I would say short answer is I kind of like the Inkwell system in terms of just like getting to jump in real fast and easy and not have to learn a whole new like complex mana system. It's just being like it's a dead card. Yeah, so that was nice to be able to turn dead cards into a resource. I thought that so counting up in victory points rather than counting down your opponent's life, I personally liked it. So just because I think especially if you're playing, if it's a younger audience playing, it feels less like put on being beat down and being attacked. And I think for those players, it's like I'm closer to winning, not I'm about to lose.
It does feel less antagonistic.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Like, even though Randy was like running away with victory points, I never felt like he's running away with victory points at my expense.
Yeah.
you had just as much opportunity to run away as well and catch up.
Right.
And we saw certain rounds where it was like someone went from, not to be dumb, but 0 to hero. Really low in the score, like 2, and then all of a sudden they had a big turn of like 8 points. And it was like, well, now you're in first.
Yeah.
Like, So it is possible to make those big swings in the game and it not feel like I got punched down. Because like I'm still just as close to winning myself. It's just now they're all so close. So it's a race and not a fight.
I think that's interesting, and I'm gonna come on your side, Randy. I think that's good design for a Disney-based game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we don't want our children, our precious children, to feel bad about their brother beating them at this card game. Like, we want them both to feel like they're running towards the same goal and they're just putting obstacles in front of each other. Rather than, I'm going to prevent you from ever touching this goal because I'm going to beat your face in with the 7 dwarves.
So you're having like flashbacks when Benjamin.
I am. Like, I mean, Benjamin and I played lots of the Pokemon trading card game when we were young. And we would just sit on the carpet and grind out games of his decks versus my decks. And I mean, the win rate was probably 75% Benjamin, 25% me. But I think Lorcana, this counting up in victory points, like you said, I think it's less antagonistic. It's, hey, I developed this lore generating engine. Can you throw a wrench in it, or can you develop an engine that's better? It's less, I'm attacking your thing.
Yeah.
Like in Pokemon, it's like Benjamin creates a superpower Venusaur that can solar beam down any Pokemon. Well, then I just have to spend 6 turns putting my next bench Pokemon in front of him for him to destroy.
Slaughter.
Right?
All right, my precious Raichu, go!
Does that make sense? That's what it can feel like if you can't figure out a way to stop your opponent from beating you down. And the same is true in Magic. It's like, I have a Sarah Angel. I have a 4/4 Flying Vigilance. If you can't top it in a 1v1 game where there's 20 life, that's it. I'm just going to beat you over.
That's it, yeah.
That's all. And I do think that counting up rather than down feels less antagonistic. And one of the side benefits of this was also what we mentioned earlier, that multiplayer games do not take more time. They probably still do, just because of the time it takes for people to take turns. But it's almost like, say an average game of Lorcana in 1v1 takes 20 minutes because one person takes 10 minutes playing and another person takes 10 minutes playing. So if you did 3, you just add 10 minutes to your game time. It's probably going to take 30 minutes for 3 people who know the rules to play a 3-person game of Lorcana because everyone's counting up to the same goal.
Yeah.
Well, if I could be on the opposite side of you guys.
Yeah, of course.
I feel like it, I 100% agree. I think it's less antagonistic. I think it's good for, I guess, children to not like be, actually upset about what's going on. It's like, he didn't knock me out. He just got to his victory points. I feel like from like an adult competitive like viewpoint, that the only way to win is by getting these lore victory points. So why would I do anything other than that? Like, why would I focus on anything? Like with my steel cards, they want to fight other people doing that. Well, if I'm just faster at doing it, who cares? And then they have to make their decks less, I guess, optimized towards getting lore to slow me down. But if I am, just turbocharged, what are you going to do? I don't know. I guess it seems like it kind of overly simplifies the game to a point where like it makes the game more solvable faster, I guess.
Like, okay, the best way to win the game is to be able to put up like defenses and then play solitaire as fast as possible. Yeah. So I guess you're going for the I'm trying to think of what the Magic equivalent is, where you just like put up like walls, you put up
stacks or pillow fort or something.
Pillow fort. Like you want to pillow fort up, you want to just be like I'm gonna make it where I got some big beefy boys if you try to come over this way, but I got my guys over here,
Yeah, and I like I haven't seen every card that Lorcana's done. There's probably cards out there that I'm not aware of that are probably solving this issue. But with Lorcana, the only way I know how to win is by getting 20 lore or by decking your opponent. But with commander damage, or with commander, there's combat damage. Just getting through. There's commander damage. There's infect, there's mill, there's any of those I win cards. There's so many different ways to skin a cat and win in a game of Commander versus this way, which is like just get the 20.
Yeah. And in Magic, like, you can drain your opponent's life without doing combat.
Yeah.
Through any number of other various effects too.
Yep.
Burn or drain or whatever. So yeah, I see what you mean. That in Lorcana, it's victory points or nothing. That you can't win.
Yeah.
If you don't get your 20.
You either only win or you make your opponent lose by decking them somehow. But if I can continue complaining, the game is kind of boring when it's not your turn. There's nothing, there's no interaction, there's no stack like there is in Magic. And this was I even mentioned this when we were playing our 4-player game, which is to be expected. But since there's no interaction, whatever, there's no reason to pay attention, I don't feel like. My opponent just tells me what they're going to do. I have no choice in the matter. I can't do anything. So I'm checked out for us playing 4 people, 40 minutes, or I guess 30 of those minutes that's not my 10 minutes of playing.
Right.
So I'm just... Which is okay.
Ideally, you're watching so that you can be planning your own turn.
Right. Well, if I'm top decking like I was talking about, where it's not a card draw.
Where there's no planning you can do if you're in a top decking situation.
Yeah, which is where I found myself both times. But even then, like, I don't have to do some kind of elaborate strategy. I need to do this, and then this, and then this. It's like, well, I've got, 3 ink or 4 ink. I can pay my 4 ink thing. Can't attack with it or lore with it or anything like that. I feel like the turn kind of plays itself.
Yeah. I feel like any game that doesn't provide a lot of card draw is going to get to a top decking boring game pretty quick. Especially in a game where, like, you have to use where card as resource, both mana, ink, and card as effect. So if I start the game with 7 cards and I spend 2 per turn and only draw 1 per turn, I'm going to run out of cards.
Yeah, I see that.
Here's something that I thought was funny. Lorcana does not call it summoning sickness. When you play a character, it has to wait because it's wet. That's an interesting choice. Because we ended up just saying, sorry, my Anna's wet. Or sorry, the queen is wet. She can't do anything right now. Now, that happens when a group of 4 30-year-olds are playing a children's card game. I think that's inevitable. But it's a funny word choice that's in the rule books.
Yeah. And in case you're trying to figure out why, it's because you used ink. Your character, I guess you drew your character. They need to dry. Ink needs to dry. But yeah.
But also, Kronk is wet.
Dripping,
this is funny.
even.
Calling cards wet is funny.
Yeah.
And asking, can that character swing yet? No, they're wet.
Yep.
Benjamin, I think this was yours about the tone and flavor. Was that you?
Yeah, this could go either way.
Depending on what you're into.
Yeah, depending on what you're into. We've been talking about how much fun the flavor is. These are all things we know and all this stuff, but everything, the rules, the wording, all of it's a very light, family friendly, right? Nothing is attacked, it's challenged. They don't die, they're banished.
Things aren't dying.
Yeah. You're not attacking their life, you're questing for lore. And of course all the artwork is, even the villains are funny, right? Like one of my cards was Gaston the Intellectual or something like that. That was
Intellectual Powerhouse.
Yeah, Intellectual Powerhouse.
Gaston Intellectual Powerhouse.
And then there's another one that was like Baritone Bully, where he said he's singing. And you're like, okay, and Disney's like that. Its villains are funny, and its villain, but they do have dark villains. You have Scar committing murder. You have Ursula, manipulating this girl into, I don't know. It obviously there's a lot of darkness in Disney's past and stuff. But anyways, the point is,
wife likes to say that Mother Gothel from Tangled is the most evil of the Disney villains because she gaslights a child every single day.
Yeah. But overall, right, it's very lighthearted. Whereas Magic, it obviously has its jokes. It has its goblins and stuff like that. But it's also dark, it's gritty, it's got, it's got its beautiful bloom tender with a flower, and it's got its but even that stuff, the beautiful stuff is I don't know. I don't want to say raw, but I don't know. It's a very, very different tone. And so it depends what you like, right? If you want high fantasy, you want the struggles between good and evil and all the gray areas and all that, then obviously that's Magic. If you want something to play with the kids, then Lorcana.
Lorcana.
Yeah.
Okay, final judgment. What do you guys think of Lorcana? Yes, it's a good game to play. Would play again. How should we rate this? Should we just do thumbs ups and thumbs down, or
1 out
should
of
we
10.
rank out of 10?
Good question. We should have thought of this before we started recording.
Maybe it's like dice.
I'll give it a
It was a-
D12.
Yeah, I give it a D.
Okay, I think that's funny.
Okay, here
Let's
we
do
go.
it out of dice.
I got the perfect shirt for it too.
So there we
Yeah,
go.
there you
So your highest rating is giving it a D20.
D20.
Your lowest rating is giving it a D4.
So 4, 6,
4,
8, 10,
10.
12, 20.
20.
So out of 6.
So out of 6.
You know what? I'll give it a D10. I think it's a good gateway into other card games. I enjoyed it. I could see myself enjoying it for a while. I like the flavor. Overall, I think it would get stale. I don't think it'll ever have the strategic complexity or the deck building that Magic has. I think that I don't picture it ever replacing Magic, and therefore I don't think I could go higher. But as far as getting people interested in the genre of card games, collectible card games, and as an easy on ramp that you can have fun on a game night or whatever, and affordability, so I'll give it a D10.
I just want to jump in because I don't want to repeat everything Benjamin just said. I give it a D10 for all of the same reasons Benjamin just said.
That's where I was too. A D10 for everything Benjamin just said. Like I think it's a great outing. I'm sure it's great for children. I had a good time playing it despite my complaints in this episode as a critic. But it was fun. I do agree that I think it would get stale fast. The complexity's not really there for me. The multiplayerness, I want to play Magic so I can hang out with the boys, and I don't have that in Lorcana yet, or at least in a fun way.
Sure. Randy, how about you?
I was torn between D8 and D10, and for sake of variety, I will say D8 because, like we've said, it's a good introduction, and like if y'all ever wanted to play it, I'd be like, okay, yeah, like I have a deck, I don't mind playing, but I'm never going to be the one to be like, hey, y'all want to play Lorcana? It's not going to be the one I suggest.
It hasn't
but I'm not
sparked the
opposed
fire yet.
to playing, playing it every now and then. But I wouldn't be like, all right, we're going to sit down for 6 hours and we're just going to crunch.
Just crank these games out.
Grind out Lorcana.
It's going to be like no, I got 2, maybe 3 games in me. Depending on if we do like a tournament kind of thing or something like that. But yeah, I think that's about all. I'd be like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, I'll give it an 8. It's not bad, but it's not addictive in the way I want. Okay, it's just it's good.
So I think it's okay for our listeners. The astute listener may have noticed that Randy has not been with us for our past couple of Magic episodes. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone goes through phases in their fandoms, and Randy told me I'm not interested in recording Magic stuff, and that's totally fine.
I've lost that fire for Magic.
And that's totally fine because whenever the 4 of us still get together, we're doing this series now where we're looking for more awesome games to play, and we always have Magic as our fallback for when Union Arena fails,
Hey,
or
we don't know
when
that yet.
Universus fails, or when Lorcana fails.
We don't know that yet, but I mean,
we don't know that for the other ones yet.
But yeah, so and that's kind of the reasons why I always suggested the series. It's like, let's see what else is out there.
Yeah,
and
we want to see what else is out
there.
there.
Content.
We want to do do board games too.
I want to play with Gon and Killua, and I can't do that in Magic.
Yeah, we're looking for ways to expand the way we hang out.
Yeah.
Should we do
Benjamin? Sorry.
Retroactive grading on Yu-Gi-Oh! Since we've done that one.
Okay, retroactive rating on Yu-Gi-Oh! Good idea.
D4 to D20. How do you rate Yu-Gi-Oh! As a Magic player?
So I would say I'm going to put it at a D D10 currently. Maybe D12 when I was more into it, but currently it's a D10 for me. If it was between Lorcana, like if there's a mobile app for Lorcana and a mobile app for Yu-Gi-Oh, I am much more likely to go towards Yu-Gi-Oh that has more of the art and the general like fantasy kind of thing that I want. In that I want Skull Knight and stuff like that.
Oh, I'm the exact opposite. I'd probably say a D8 or maybe even a D6. Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like there's no flavor for me. Like everything feels made up. Points don't matter. There's like weird.
Everything seems made up.
What? I mean, like a Toon Dragon.
There's no
What-
lore,
what
there's no
is
movies
that?
behind them.
Yeah, like okay, there's a TV show where I could watch it and it's not related to the card game at all. At least with like the flavor of Lorcana or Magic or Pokemon or any of those card games are out there, all make sense except Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh makes no sense. And then the rules, it's like things are face up, things are face down. There are certain link things that the placement on the board matters, and I'm like, the rules don't make any sense. You have 3 decks and you have or I guess 2 decks. What I don't know. I feel like of all the cards, I get why people like it if you're invested in it, because I know that there's deck building and strategic complexity, kind of. But for someone who's
Benjamin
in something
is so
else,
bitter about you.
I can't ever. I will play Yu-Gi-Oh with other people who have a deck. I will never have a Yu-Gi-Oh deck. I just can't do it. I'll give it a
I'm
D.
gonna give Yu-Gi-Oh a D12,
Wow.
and I won't give it a D20 because I don't like playing Yu-Gi-Oh with cards. I think it's a very good digital game that's very fun when a computer can keep track of all the things that are too difficult for me to keep track of, such as the life points being in the thousands rather than cutting 2 zeros off of everything, or having the costs semicolon the effect comma colon, like all of the rules. They're like a card's rules text is difficult to read. There's so much text on each card, where if I were holding a physical card, which is already smaller than an American playing card, and then the art is so big that they've like the font size itself makes it impossible to play on paper.
Is this a font for ants?
But I do think that the game is very fun online. I like the artwork and the flavor that Randy's talked about. I do feel like each archetype has mechanical uniqueness and a lot of interplay and deck building potential by mixing archetypes, which is a lot of fun. And like I said, I have been playing it daily on Master Duel since we did our episode with David. So
For me, I give it a D4 out of
Nice.
Not a
that
D-
game. I'll give it a D2 if we're allowed to do a D2.
D4.
Yeah.
There is not a scenario in this world where I'll be willing to play Yu-Gi-Oh. I hate the art. I hate the text on the card, like Travis said. I hate that it doesn't have any formatting. It's just nonsense. Same with Benjamin. I 100% get what you mean. Like it all feels like fake, like nonsense. Like this is a dragon grass wall thing that just doesn't seem like very coherent. I don't like the art choice they make in a lot. Like it's like kind of like an old like magazine or something like that. I'm not really sure how you categorize that look, but I don't care for it. But I do like the show. As a kid, I loved the show.
Yeah.
And I would be willing to give it a D6 if Red Eyes Black Skull Dragon was involved. I was like, I'll listen to what you got to say.
I'll be like David in our last episode. Red Eyes Black Dragon just got some recent support.
Well, I'll hear you out. I'm not going to play, but I'll hear you out.
Benjamin, give us some words of wisdom for trying out a new game.
Do it.
All right, yeah, that's it.
Wrap it up. We
I
got,
think
we
this was
got
a
our
fun
take.
episode. I look
one.
forward to doing more. Listeners, please tell us which card games out there are you playing and really enjoying, especially Magic players out there. If your group has a second game you play, or if you have a second meta you play with that's not your Magic group, but this group likes Magic, but this group likes Flesh and Blood. Tell us what other games you're playing so that I can convince Derek to actually buy starter decks for those games.
I don't know how I
It's got me on the universes because there's going to be a Godzilla and Ghidorah deck. And it's like
Yeah.
I'll pay whatever money they want. Anything else though? Y'all have an uphill battle to climb.
For this series to succeed, it's gonna need some audience input.
Hey,
What
feel
if-
free to
Derek
mail
won't
us
do
a
it for
copy,
just
and I'll
us.
play with that copy.
Hey, what if the Godzilla deck is a bait and switch and it's actually like
And Garrus. No.
It's actually a Power Ranger deck.
right?
I would not complain. I'd be a little sad, but I would not complain.
All right. Hey, listeners, thank you so much for sticking with us. If you're interested in finding out more about our Patreon, go to patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can contact us directly at mymythicalmeta@gmail.com. Please leave comments on all our social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook if you catch us there. But God, Facebook is not picking up any traction.
Old people don't play games, so it makes sense.
They're too big
Facebook
conspiracy theory.
is the boomer social media now.
Twitter's next. Or X.
Thanks so
Is
much for
Yu-Gi-Oh! taking
listening.
over the minds of
and
our youth.
Benjamin, Derek, Randy, welcome back. And thank you guys, as always, for being my great friends. Adios.
Bye.
Later, guys.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.